Glory to Jesus Christ. Welcome back. You are listening to The Voice of Reason, and we have a very special treat for all of you today because I have the pleasure of sitting here with none other than the director-producer for the brand new film, Heart of a Servant, the Father Flanagan story. Rob, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. We just had the movie premiere for your new film last night, and I still feel like I'm on a cloud. Yesterday was amazing. We're here at Boys Town. Right here we are in the Museum of History in Boys Town. This is all about Father Flanagan and what this one Catholic priest built. And you guys told his whole story in that beautiful film last night. Like I said, I'm still on cloud nine. I'm still kind of absorbing it all. It's one of those films that kind of just makes you, you watch it and you kind of just sit there and you're like, what's next? What do I need to do? So tell us about this film. Tell us about how it came together, how it fell in your lap. Just talk to us.
Yeah, you know, it's there's something I like to think about a lot. It was someone, Catholic speaker, talked about the most pivotal moment in Christian history, which was when Jesus Christ died on the cross. And she said, who was there when Jesus died? She goes, his mother, because that's how mothers are. You can't get they're going to be there.
Of course.
And John the Beloved. And why was John the Beloved there? He was there because he showed up that day. So that day, not all the disciples showed up. It was very, a lot going on, and very scared. And then some that did show up didn't stay till the end. He stayed till the bitter end. And so the importance of showing up and staying, for me, has just been something I reflect on so much. There's so many, people may ask sometimes, how'd you get to do this or that? It's like, well, you got to show up and you got to stay, because that's how the Lord uses you. If you don't stay with something and learn it, because Spirit Juice is 17 years old, and there's been several times where I've like, God, I can't do this. This is too hard. This is too hard to try to make this work as a business and with people and clients and all, and I just can't do it. And God's like, just keep going. I'm going to give you the grace. And so because of that, we were able to continue to make films. And back in 2017, Steve Wolf, who was the Father Flanagan League, wanted to make a film on Father Flanagan. And we have done different documentaries on different saints or soon-to-be saints, or now that are saints, like Juno Bracero was a documentary we did a thing on. Now he is a saint. And the story was very interesting, but we also knew, to do it right, it was going to take a lot of money and time.
Right.
So we worked with Steve and put together a whole sort of proposal of what this would be, and he's went to fundraise. And then we check in periodically, and it was one of those things where this would be amazing if it happened, but there's also
Obstacles.
A lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
And so by the grace of God, they fundraised, and then I got a call one day. He's like, "We're ready to start."
Wow.
Like, this is great, and then, but that's the beginning. And I was like, okay,
Right.
so that was like, we can do it, but how are we going to do it? And telling a story, telling any story, especially like a documentary, you can take so many different routes, and you're still telling the person's story, but how are you going to tell it? And so it was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge.
Right.
It's a fun challenge, and it's crazy to be here now, done. It feels like it was never going to be done.
It's so funny that you say that, because just yesterday we were on the red carpet, and it was Ed Morris, who was the MC for the event last night, who presented the film. He wasn't even talking to me. He was talking to, I think it was Ashley Donaldson, or he was talking to somebody, and he said he was talking to her, and he said, 80% of success is just showing up. You just show up, and then you just do the work. If you show up, you've kind of 80% of the way there, and then you just get to work. That's 80% of it. And I think that's very true in the spiritual life, where, God is going to expect you to, by your own power, to do anything. You can't do anything without God, right? That's what the scripture says. Is what, nothing can be done apart from God's grace. So you just got to show up. And then once you show up, that's when God is going to work in you. The Holy Spirit is going to work in you, and then that's when miracles happen. But you have to show up first. You show up, and then you let God take care of the rest. Yeah. So showing up is something that a lot of people, it's so simple, but a lot of people don't show up.
You box and you work out, so just showing up to the gym is half the battle.
If you take the time to get up early and to, put on your clothes and put your shoes on and grab a coffee and drive over there and you put all that effort in, you show up, you're going to do some work because you showed up. So it's the same thing with the spiritual life. Show up to Mass. Show up to Mass. Never miss a Mass ever again for the rest of your life. Go to Mass, show up. Because if you take the time to get ready to put on your nice, church clothes, we just did a tour here of this beautiful museum. And Tom said that something that was really important for Father Flanagan is that he would tell the boys how to dress for Mass. So this is how you dress to go to church. This is how you dress for Mass. Putting that effort in, and then you show up and, hey, you know what? I'm here. I look nice. I look presentable. I feel good about myself today. Let me worship God. And when you show up before God, that's when God is going to use you. And everything that Father Flanagan was able to do and accomplish, he was so busy. He was so busy that he was 62, right? When he passed away, because he just worked himself to death, literally to death. But look at everything he accomplished. As busy as he was, he always took the time. And the film talks about this, to celebrate the Eucharist, to celebrate Mass. That was where he got his energy from, his source. He had energy forever because of that, because he put God first.
We had the pleasure of working on many different films for different saints or soon-to-be saints, and that's the common thread through all of them. The busier they got, the more they prayed, or the more they had Mass. And so that's like, it's like how, that question you asked was like, how do you become that? It's like, you have to make time for God and make as much time as you can, because spending time with the Lord will change your life.
I can't remember who said this. I want to say maybe it was Archbishop Fulton Sheen. I can't remember who it was. I'm probably wrong. It was probably someone else. But it was a saint who said, if you're busy, make sure you always pray the rosary. If you're really busy that day, pray 2 rosaries. And pray 2 rosaries if you're really busy that day. And you show up, So.
Praying the rosary will change. It will change your life.
Amen. It will change everything.
Pray the rosary.
Pray the rosary, guys. You did it right here. Pray the rosary. So the Father Flanagan League reached out to you to get the movie made.
Yeah.
Right? Because you are the director-producer, but there was also 2 other directors and writers that were involved. Daniel Gebert and Victoria McEachern. So how did they get tied to the project as well? Are you guys a team? Do you guys always do everything together?
So yes and no. The company, so Spiritu Studios we're a production company, and we do some long form like documentaries like this. We do a lot of short form, and really when any project comes in, we have a set of producers, we have a set of directors, and so and then we have sort of the executive team as well, which is they're also executive producers on this. So Seneca and Brandon. So we sat down and we're like, okay, who here is going to be best to help tell the story? Because there's something I like to think of at the company, and I don't think it's as prevalent in sort of the creative field, which is being obedient to the project. I think a lot of times in the creative field, and I'm self-admitted, I was sort of in this where it's like, we think how great their art was written for us. We think like we're so creative, we know best, right? And we're not obedient. Like we don't realize this. And this is the example. Like the Father Flanagan League was paying us to make this film. Like it was a privilege by all means, but it wasn't our money. It wasn't like, so we have to honor them. We have to, and their main thing is this person needs to become a saint. We want to make a film to show that. So when we look at a project, like any project, we say, okay, who's going to serve this project the best? And at the time, we thought that Daniel and Victoria would help serve this project the best, just kind of based on their skill set, what the needs were. There's a lot of international stuff, and they did. They did a great job, and I worked very closely with both of them, kind of on different, Victoria's on the producing side, so I worked with her on that, and Daniel's on the directing side, so I worked with Daniel on that. So it was cool that I kind of had the ability to kind of like dip my toes on both sides, and then at the same time, the relationship I had with Steve and making sure that North Star of like, is this furthering people to understand, Father Flanagan as a saint? Is that happening or not? And so, kind of always keeping that as the priority. Wow. So, yeah, it's a windy road, but it gets there.
So, in the movie making process, because you guys had the wisdom, obviously, to realize they're asking us to do this. We have to honor them. We have to serve them and make sure that we do right by them. Does that make the movie making process easier as being creative, or does it make it more difficult?
So I love this question a lot. In one way, you would think like, oh, this makes it harder because there's always limitations. But I think that's actually what makes it better. Because I think about just different directors that I like, and in some of their films, when they've had more constraints, they're better. Because you get more creative. When you have no, like, there was a film, I like some of James Gunn's movies, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, I thought, just amazing, love them. And then I saw Suicide Squad 2, which he directed, and some interviews he had talked about how he felt like constrained by Marvel and Guardians, and he couldn't do certain things. And in Suicide Squad 2, he's like, I got to do everything I wanted, and I was like, it wasn't that good, in my opinion. It wasn't that good because he got to do everything. It's like, no, you have to, without rules. Go ahead, yeah.
Now I'm excited. This is when it comes to art, a lot of people think that art can be anything, that you can accidentally make art, and what people don't realize is that the rules are there for a reason.
Yeah.
You need the rules in order for the art to actually be art, whether it's in filmmaking, acting, even like poetry, right? Like poetry, you have iambic pentameter, you have meter, you have rhythm, it's all there. That's why, and I don't want to offend anybody, but like slam poetry, like I can't stand it because it's not.
What do you mean? You can't say it.
It's because you can't throw the rules out of the window.
Yeah.
You can't throw the rules out of the window because then it's not art anymore.
Right.
It's just you having fun and
which is fine.
Which is
but
absolutely it's fine. But you said Guardians of the or Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah.
Wasn't that good because when you just you become indulgent.
Yeah.
You become indulgent, and that's not what art is. The rules are there for a reason. It's like being a great athlete. You need to follow the rules, and you need to have the discipline in order to be truly great. If you didn't have, no one would care to watch you play your sport.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with art. So I love that you said that because I feel like nowadays people don't, people think that anything is, you can splash a can of paint onto a canvas and it'll land where it may, and that's beautiful modern art. No, it isn't. That's not art at all. You just made a mess. Go clean it up.
Yeah. It's,
so
when we drive past like things on the road that are like that, my kids are like, it looks like just a pile of junk. I'm like,
there you go.
From the mouth of babes.
From the mouth of babes, they always tell the truth.
Yeah. So I mean, your question, like going back, it was like, did it make it harder or not? Like, well, I think it made it better because it gave us like, otherwise we would have went all these different ways, and it's like, I don't know, we've all seen films that have just sort of not had this like these guardrails, and so was it challenging at times? Sure, yeah, but it was the good challenge. It's like that's what we need. It's like the discipline and
exactly. So what was your favorite part? What was the most fulfilling part, or maybe moment or aspect of this project for you?
I'll say one that it was. I wasn't. Shoot. It was actually on the audio side. So like visually it was fun, and I usually that's my favorite thing as far as like seeing like how the interviews are coming together and all stuff. But doing the narration with Jonathan was like, I mean, because it was like that was big time for me. Like being able to, like he walked
Jonathan
in,
Rumi,
I was like, this is like not just like he was there, but he like felt like he was connected to it, and so that was just fun. Like he was just like great to work with. He brought so much depth to it because the thing is like, I don't think a lot of people realize how good he is at voiceover work. Like he does like mainstream video games in just tons of stuff.
And he's won awards. He's an award-winning voiceover. Everyone knows Jonathan Rumi from The Chosen, obviously, from the big screen with Jesus Revolution. But the bulk of his work, I believe, is in voiceover and video games. And
he is really good at voiceover.
He is so talented.
Yeah.
Immediately, that's what I took every time when I was watching the movie last night. He would do his narration, and I would, because he was sitting in the same row that I was sitting in. He was just done. He would narrate, and then I would kind of go like this, and I'd like look to see if I could, and I'd kind of be like, why is he so good?
Yeah.
How is he so? He's a lot of people would think that narration is just like, oh, you just read the words, like you're just narrating. Like, no, that itself is an art, and you have to do it well. And I'm like, He's good. He's very good.
Yeah, it was, you know, he would go in and because like it was like a studio in Nashville. He's in the booth and like me and Daniel are listening, and he delivered lines twice, and it's like, okay, I need like notes or inflection, and it was just like, I mean, I don't know, you know, we obviously gave him notes and stuff, but he was able to just like do it so well, so naturally. So that was a blast. And strangely enough, when we did this sound mix, so we did like we worked with a company called Noise Floor in Chicago, and we went in, and like it's a great, like if you're an audiophile, like it's just like the best. And so just hearing it, I've never heard the film sound so good, and they did like all the sound design and like, you know, just like when you look at like the timeline with all the different things in there, because all like the archival footage, there's no sound. So when you hear like just even like something small when like they're shaving their heads for like the war, that was all put in like different sounds, and so just being able to like tweak and listen to that in like the best audio system ever, it was really cool. I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to enjoy that part as much as I did.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I remember thinking when I was watching it last night, right? It's a beautiful movie visually, but if you were to close your eyes and just listen to it, it's very beautiful to just listen to. It's very, what's the word that you use? It's very pleasing to the ear. Again, Jonathan Rumi's narration, his voice, and the way he says words, the background music, the archival footage, and hearing actually, you know, Father Flanagan, you know, hearing his voice in the recordings of his that we do have, and the way that it was mixed. It's a very nice film to listen to.
Thank you.
So I think that in every aspect of art, I think you guys knocked it out of the park, because it's very nice to look at, it's very nice to listen to, it's very easy to follow, and it's very. How long is the movie? How long is the film?
It's like about 90 minutes.
Cause it went like that.
Oh, thank you.
So fast. And then the story, because it's a real life story, it's incredible. So did you know about Father Flanagan before you started working on this film, or? I
knew just like the name was like, it rings a bell.
Yeah,
it rings a bell. And I remember I was actually talking to my wife yesterday when we were driving back to the hotel. I was like, do you remember when Steve called and I bought the film Boys Town? Because it was like, you know, Steve was like, oh yeah, it was at Boys Town, but it's not just Boys Town, you know, there was more to his life than that. I was like, okay, well, let me just start with that. And I remember watching it, and it's, you know, it's a black and white, you know, old fashioned, like, you know, the opening credits take like 30 minutes to get through with like, you know, all the titles. And I remember just being like, wow, this is, that was like, that got me really excited, as most people, once they first see that, and then just diving into his life and seeing that was, you know, I won't say the tip of the iceberg, because it really is like so much of what he built, but like, it doesn't stop there. Right. And there was more beyond that. So it was, it's cool to just explore all of that.
Right. So in the process of making the film, is there any particular one story about Father Flanagan or about Boys Town that is your favorite, that sticks with you, that resonated with you more than anything? Because I know you did tons of research for this, obviously.
Yeah, you know, the one, the story that Deacon Omar shares in the film, where about the altar server. Yeah. What we don't talk about in there, and I haven't got this 100% confirmed, but I read it, but I didn't like, you know, because here's the thing: anything in a film, they have to get E&O insurance. Basically, you can't say something that's not true,
right.
And so there's a lot of things. So like some things we didn't like, you have to kind of get like triple checked. Right. And so we didn't have the triple check for this, but that boy that was, you know, that felt like he couldn't receive communion, and then that's an altar server, and Father Flanagan said, "Don't you know there's so much here to make you a saint? Why not to be a priest?"
Right.
And so I think just like that impact that he had in that young man's life, I don't know, those simple stories, like the big ones, you know, because you could go on Wikipedia and you could kind of in one way we could watch the film, you could read a Wikipedia page and basically understand the same facts,
right?
Which is fantastic, but it's the small stories and those small moments. I just think about things in my own life and these experiences, whether it's with my own son or whether it's my dad, you know, and these small moments that are like that's made the difference. Right. And I think like in the film, it was so important to keep that in there. What Deacon shares, because like that's a small moment that impacted that young man's life forever.
Right. I couldn't tell you how many times when watching that film where I thought of like my own father. you know, or I thought about relationships that I've had with priests all throughout my entire life, wonderful, amazing priests that I've known, and you know, I always, you know, I was thinking to myself like, man, like I'm very fortunate because I've known Father Flanagans in my life, you know, that have really impacted me, have said things to me that have really impacted me. So it's the beautiful thing about art is that art tells the truth, and the spectator of the art, it kind of reminds you or you realize like, hey, you know, this is good, true, and beautiful, and I have this in my life. And I think that's what really good art does, you know. And that movie really did that for me.
Thank you.
And so it's just remarkable.
Yeah, I agree. Art it helps you sort of like introspect on your own life and sometimes appreciate the things that you have or the people that have been there. It's almost like a flashlight shining a light on your life.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what like Shakespeare was so good at, and all of the great artists, you know, throughout history, is that they were able to tell your life story better than even you could if you tried.
Yeah.
And that's what really good art does, is that, you know, that's why it resonates with us, because it's really our story. And in the case of Father Flanagan, it's a reflection of the greatest story ever told, the story of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
And what I really appreciate about you and all of the great folks that you work with is that you guys are in this business, in the movie making business, in the art making business, and you guys wear your faith literally on your sleeve. I love your shirt. I love your T-shirt, the Sunday Mass. Yeah. That's awesome. You have our Lord here on your arms. You have Our Lady.
Saint Francis, Saint Michael.
That's.
I would take my shirt up, but I have the 7 Sorrows of Mary on my back.
Oh man, that would be. You know what? Maybe if we could get like a picture of. Should we get that on camera or after? It's up to you, man. If you're cool.
I got. So this one, if we're just going to tattoo show. Mary, but so it's symbolic. So oftentimes she's shown. A knife or a stake through the head of the devil.
Right.
So it's like the head of a devil right there.
Sick.
And then you got Jesus and the chalice, the blood, and then just sort of like ornamental stuff above them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
man.
it's like I know some people with tattoos. It's like your body, like you should have made tattoos. I kind of think it's like a church.
You're like a walking icon, man. You're like a walking. You have like all these icons on you, man. That's amazing. And I think it's very appropriate for what you do. You know, for being a movie director, you should have tattoos. You should have like you're a young. You should. It's
tell my mom that.
It's part of like the. It's. Oh no. Oh no. I wouldn't. When it comes to the moms, no. You will never be able to convince your mom about those things. But it's like fits for like what you do in life.
Yeah,
you're like the young cool guy. I make movies, and you have the tattoos, but your tattoos tell about the greatest art, the greatest truth, which is the truth of God, the truth of Jesus Christ. Maybe talk to us a little bit about you personally, your personal faith.
Sure.
And what led you to, have you always been Catholic? Have you always been, tell us about your background, your faith background.
So, cradle Catholic, and actually my dad and I were baptized at the same time.
Wow.
So, I was young. He was, Dad, what religion were you before? Methodist.
Oh, wow.
My mom, Italian Catholic, so for a while, going to church was just something that was sort of, you had to do, And then I remember very distinctly, I was in CCD, so like Sunday school, and a nun came in. I don't know what she talked about, but she gave us a little card at the end. And on the card, the front side had a prayer. And this totally changed my view on God, because prior I thought it was just like, I don't know, like I show up, I don't know, God just like something I hear about. The prayer said this: "My Lord, I will try to remember today that nothing is going to happen that you and I can't handle together." And maybe it was like I was in 7th grade and schools, you're kind of getting that like it's hard to kind of navigate that, and I felt a little like challenged in that way. But knowing that like God was with me on my side and nothing's going to happen that like Him and I can't handle together, I was like, whoa. So I remember praying that prayer every day. And then I found out that serenity prayer, like God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change and the courage to change things that I can. And it's like, well, these two things, like short prayers, you're done in 30 seconds. But that was, I prayed that all the time. And then as I was going into high school, and my dad said we should go to Medjugorje. We had heard some family members, and I know a lot of people have different opinions on Medjugorje.
Right.
But it was, for me, so the faith became like, okay, this God's real. And then when we went to Medjugorje, that completely changed. Like it was like, okay, I have like a mustard seed of faith after those prayers. And then going to Medjugorje, it was almost like I felt like I was in heaven, in the sense of like, no, this is all real. Like God's of it. Like there was not a question whether God and the Catholic faith and all this stuff was real or not. It was like, oh, it's real.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of set my heart on fire then. And so it's like, well, if this is real, then how could you not serve God and stuff? And so, still in high school, so I'm still kind of an idiot, like we all are in high school.
Right.
But it was just grounding force, and so then I started going to the youth group and all this stuff, and then it was the catalyst. And so youth group was like the entry drug a little bit to like ministry, and then you volunteer, and the next thing you know, like you're teaching CCD and doing retreats, and you're very involved. And but I haven't looked back. It's just God's blessed me so much.
That's amazing, man. So you are the shining example of what being brought up in the faith should result in a young person, right? You grew up in the faith. You went to class with the nuns. You were part of the youth group. You participated in the life of the church, and look at you now. You are the product. You're exactly how it's supposed to be for all of us. All of us should be a product of our environments of growing up in the faith. So my question to you would be, how do we get more people like you? How do we because you're young, successful, passionate, you do what you love the Lord, you love the faith. As a society, how do we get more men like him? How do we get more men like him that are going to inspire boys like that to become you? How?
I appreciate the kind words. I mean, you're living it yourself. You're doing it. I think how do we be what God calls us to be is kind of going back to that thing I was saying earlier, where you got to show up and stay. So God puts people in our lives, and I think that's how we become holy, and that's how I think depending on who you are, where you are in your life. Obviously, as a young kid, it's hard, as you're growing up. But once you become an adult, like your path to holiness, you don't have to search for it. It's the people that are there in front of you. And if God wants different people in front of you, He will put that. And so, I was watching a video the other day, and the guy said something that transformed this young person's life was, he pretended for a week that everyone he met was Jesus in disguise. So he came home, and he saw his mom, and he's like, maybe mom's Jesus in disguise. And she was like, hey, can I help you unload the groceries? She's like, oh, well, yeah, sure. And then like he saw his father and whatever he was doing, he's like, Dad, can I do this? And everyone he saw was Jesus in disguise. And that revolution, the way he looked at stuff. And so you don't got to go far at all. And maybe God is calling you to like with Father Flanagan, and go in different countries at different times. But for the most part, the mission field is in your home, it's at your work, and it's Jesus in disguise for everyone you meet.
And that's what Father Flanagan's entire life was about. He saw Jesus and all of those boys that he took in, that he cared for. The question that I just asked you, I asked that question to Jonathan Rumi yesterday. And I asked him that same question, and without a beat, he didn't even know. He said, right away, he said, Father Flanagan wants us to know and understand that it's about the person in front of you. He said, you can be Father Flanagan and you can do what he did just by doing it with the person in front of you.
Yeah.
That was the response that he gave me when I interviewed him yesterday. And it's the exact same response that you just gave.
That's cool.
So I think it's really cool when you guys come together and you guys are working together on your art and on telling the story. And then when it ends, the job is done, and then you all go your separate ways. You all know why you did it, and you all know exactly what Father Flanagan, it's almost like, because Jonathan Rumi said this too last night, after the premiere, we had a panel with you that you guys were involved in, and he said Father Flanagan chose us, and you guys thought that you guys were serving Father Flanagan, that you guys were but what really that you guys were putting his story together, but really it was Father Flanagan that was teaching you something, showing you something.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
true.
That's the beauty of Christian art. That's what Christian art does. You think that you're the artist, and you think that you're putting the art together, but what you don't realize is that it's God that is, through what you're doing, he's actually making you into his art, his creation, his new creation. That's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of living in this world.
So well said.
It's, man, and you kind of just dwell on that. And that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
That goes for artists, that goes for people that are parents, that goes for people that work blue-collar jobs. You are God's art. Just think about that, for a while.
Beautiful.
So when does this movie come out, and how can the audience go and see it?
Comes out October 8th. You can see it. You can go to fatherflanaganfilm.com. That's like the movie's website, and you get the tickets there. But it's on Fandango. So if you got Fandango, which that's how I usually buy my tickets, just search on Fandango, Heart of a Servant. It'll come up. So it opens on October 8th. It's a one-day thing, but if enough people buy tickets, they'll add another day and then maybe another weekend too. So we just appreciate your support and everyone's watching. I think, why it's important just to support, I think, Catholic films in general is people often complain, like, well, why isn't there more Catholic movies out there? It's like, well, there'll be more out. Like Hollywood and the entertainment industry is run by money. So if people support it financially, that you'll see more of it. And so whether it's this film or another Catholic film or another good Christian film, it's good to support Christian films because a rising tide rises all ships. Right. And the more stories, I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing more Christian films, more Catholic films out in mainstream. Because people are supporting it, they're voting with their wallet in a sense of like what they want to see. Yeah. So I encourage people to see this and to see other films, and lift each other up.
Right. So not only do we have heroes like you that make the art, but the real heroes that are very pivotal and really important in order for the art to be seen is every single one of you who's watching this. Every single one of you who watches this video, you have the power to go in and support art like this, films like this, to make sure that they keep coming. And over the past couple of years, a lot of these types of movies have been made that are mainstream, that have broken into the culture because of people like you who are watching this right now, because you guys support. So keep doing it, keep supporting it, precisely because it's good for the culture, and also these movies are just good. They're good quality. Jonathan Rumi, the first question I asked him yesterday when I interviewed him, I said, why do you think that these movies are making a resurgence and that people are coming back to these films? And he said, because they're good. He said the quality is good. They're not corny. They're not lame. They're not cheesy. They don't compromise the acting. They don't compromise they don't compromise anything. They don't do it just for the sake of doing it, just to help the culture. They actually make sure that they're good quality. And this movie is such good quality. You and the other directors involved, Jonathan Rumi, everyone else, you guys have outdone yourself. You guys have done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I'll have one last question for you before we wrap up here. I want to know, what other stories of Catholic saints or soon-to-be saints, hopefully we got to pray the prayer to help forward the cause of canonization for Father Flanagan. What other great Catholic heroes would you like to make a movie out of?
There was one that came up. I'm just fascinated by it. So, as you can tell, I enjoy sort of interesting things. I think, and I know they've done stuff, but I think something on Saint Michael, because I think Saint Michael, I was asking a priest, I was like, so Saint Michael, he's an archangel, but he's a saint. How does that work? And he explained it, and I'm not going to try to re-explain it, but he's both. I think that, I resonate with St. Michael so much. I think a lot of men resonate with St. Michael. It's just this like brute strength of like stabbing the devil in the head, and just like, and he's the patron saint of the police, fire department, all armed stuff. I think it'd be really interesting, really interesting to tell a story of that, probably in a more narrative way.
Right.
That's like, I don't know, like Sin City style or something.
Oh, wow.
Like that would get me excited. I think something that has the same caliber of a major action film, but
Right.
St. Michael, like Constantine sort of style.
Like Watchmen kind of,
Well,
maybe,
yeah,
something like that.
I think there's, like if Zack Snyder was directing something on, which I thought I read he might be Catholic. I don't think he's going to do a film on St. Michael. But like that would just get, because you watch some of these like really big action films and I get like amped up, like if they're done well,
right?
And
yeah.
like just like Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if like the scene where he comes in with like the thunder at the end, and, like the music. I think about that as like a time like when I need like strength for certain things. But if you had that with St. Michael, dude,
wow.
that'd be sick. So who knows?
If all of you who watch this, if you guys like that idea, make sure that you support these films. Make sure that you support Spirit Juice Studios, because who knows, maybe you can make that movie. And when we were on the red carpet last night, because we met yesterday, and I remember you told me, you're like, "Oh, I want to mess with you." So if you're looking for someone to play St. Michael, I'm pretty, I have an acting background.
You're available?
I'm available if you need someone to play St. Michael.
Or you could be the villain.
Or I could be,
the voice.
I'm a bad boy.
Yeah,
I'm a bad boy. Actually, no, because Father Flanagan said there's no such thing as a bad boy. So I'm a good boy.
You can pretend.
I could pretend to be a bad boy. I could pretend. But yeah.
Nice.
I've had so much fun doing this interview. Is there anything else that you want to let the audience know, where they can find you, how they can support Spirit Juice Studios, and please let them know.
Yeah, so Spirit Juice Studios, if you look us up, spiritjuice.com, spiritjuicestudios.com. We actually kind of have two branches. So Spirit Juice Studios does all of our client stuff, so people hire us when we make Catholic films. But Spirit Juice has just a bunch of like original Catholic content. So we do podcasts, we have a kids show, the kids YouTube channel, a lot of different like short videos and music videos, Catholic stuff. So if you're looking for something Catholic online, just Google Spirit Juice and hopefully there'll be plenty to enjoy. So Thank you for having me, man. Dude, this has been a huge honor.
Rob Kazmark, thank
honor.
you so much for joining me. Everybody, let's support great Catholic art. Glory to Jesus Christ.